et Yamin, Asa Yehovah et Hashamayim, Ve'et Haaretz, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael, et Hashavat, Lasud et Hashavat, Ladoratam Berikolam, Uvayom Hashva'i, Uvayom Hashva'i, Shavat Vayinafash, Shavat Vayinafash, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael, et Hashavat, Lasud et Hashavat, Ladoratam Berikolam, Vishamru b'nei Yisrael, et Hashavat, Lasud et Hashavat, Ladoratam Berikolam.
You'll please join us in the Matovu.
Haleka Yaakov, Mishenoteka Israel, Matovu. Oh, Haleka Yaakov, Mishkenoteka Israel. How goodly are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwelling places, O Israel. As for me, through your abundant kindness, I will enter your house. I will prostrate myself toward your holy sanctuary in awe of you. O Yahavah, I love the house where you dwell and the place where your glory resides. I shall prostrate myself and bow. I shall kneel before Yahavah, my Maker. As for me, may my prayer to you, Yahavah, be at a favorable time. O Elohim, in your abundant kindness, answer me with the truth of your salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen.
You may be seated for the barcode service.
Can you get the white binder? Yeah, sorry.
I like how you whispered, I'm not on. It's like just because the microphone's not on.
Oh, I know I can talk loud, I
It's the
just wanted
Sabbath meditation, and which is at the beginning somewhere, and then Psalm 121. I'll do it.
I just realized
You asked me to do this?
It's on the slides.
Well, I'll do this.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
We're good. Okay, can you hear me?
No.
No?
Is
You
it-
talk loud
is the-
enough, it's fine.
Is the power on?
She's trying.
There it is, red light came on.
Do the purple one.
Okay.
Do the purple one right there. Turn it on.
Preparation is the key to success. Okay. How about now? Says
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Everybody
yeah,
can hear me?
We're good.
Okay. All right, let's go. We're supposed to go back. Go back one.
No, that's where. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's me.
Lord Code Service. Our goal is to fulfill our call to guard the commandments of Torah and to have the testimony that Messiah Yehoshua is the Redeemer of Israel.
Amen.
Sabbath meditation. Blessed are you, Yahavah Eloheinu, King of the universe, who by your word brings on the evening twilight, and by your wisdom opens the gates of the heavens.
With understanding you order the cycles of time and vary the seasons, setting the stars in their courses in the sky, according to your will.
You create day and night, causing the light to pass away before the darkness, and the darkness before the light.
By your will, the day turns into night. Yahweh, the heavenly host is your name.
O ever-living Elohim, rule over us forever. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who brings on the evening twilight.
With everlasting love you have loved the house of Israel, teaching us your Torah and precepts, your statutes and judgments.
Therefore, Yahweh Eloheinu, when we lie down and when we get up, we will meditate on your instructions and rejoice forever in the words of your Torah, in its teachings, for they are our life and sustenance.
We will meditate upon them day and night. May your love never leave us. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who loves your people Israel.
Tehillim 121, or Psalms. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from?
My help comes from Yahweh, maker of the heavens and the earth.
He does not allow your foot to be moved. He who watches over you does not slumber.
See, he who is guarding Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps.
Yahweh is your guard. Yahweh is your shade at your right hand.
The sun does not strike you by day, nor the moon by night.
Yahweh guards you from all evil. He guards your being.
Yahweh guards your going out and your coming in, now and forever.
The Barku. Bless Yahweh, the Blessed One.
Blessed is Yahweh, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Baruch et Yahweh HaMarak, Baruch Yahweh HaMarak Le'olam Vayed.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
6 days shall you labor and do all your work.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh your Elohim. In it you shall not do any work.
For in 6 days Yahweh made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. That is why Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, Above all, my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am Yahweh, who sanctifies you.
If you do turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my set-apart day, and shall call the Sabbath a delight, the set-apart day of Yahweh esteemed, and shall esteem it, not doing your own pleasure, nor speaking your own words, then you shall delight yourself in Yahweh. And I shall cause you to ride on the heights of the earth, and feed you with the inheritance of Yahweh your father, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken.
Blessings over our children.
I don't think we have any.
Don't have it. Yes, we
Don't
do.
have any children?
Oh, absolutely.
We got
It does not matter. We still actually.
I'm a big child.
No.
Well.
I'll stand under it.
Do you still have the white book there?
That's
Very front page, children's blessing, in the binder itself. The very front page, like the binder, the hard part, there's a flap, I guess.
Come on, children.
I guess they're looking for
Don't be shy.
Leslie, the actual hard binder itself, the front flap, the very front, yeah, there you go, so you don't gotta go through it right here. Does that say
Okay,
children's blessing
that's all the
right
children
there?
we have.
There you
Okay. Blessings over our children.
Thank you.
Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, we pray for these children to know that the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. Children, heed the discipline of your father, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother, for they are a fair wreath on your heads and chains about your neck. Children, obey your parents and our Master Yeshua, for this is right, and the first commandment with promise is this: honor your father and your mother, that it may go beautifully for you, and your life may be prolonged upon the earth. And parents, do not provoke your children, but train them up in the discipline and doctrine of our Master Yeshua, for there is no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in the truth. Remember, all paths of Yahweh are mercy and truth to them that seek his covenant and his testimonies. Let the words of your mouth and the meditation of your hearts be pleasing before Yahweh, your helper and redeemer. The loving commitment of Yahweh is from everlasting to everlasting upon those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children. May you always crave the word as being the pure spiritual milk by which you are nourished up to life. For whatever is true, whatever is honest, whatever is just, whatever is of good report, if there is any uprightness and if there is any praise, think on these. Finally, the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all knowledge, will keep your hearts and your minds through Yeshua the Messiah. Amen. Messiah prayer. Blessed are you, Yehovah, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua.
He walked among us filled with your Spirit, the only one who ever fulfilled your Torah perfectly.
He healed the sick and raised the dead. The multitudes of our people saw his touch.
He taught as no other man taught, bringing forth the treasures of the Torah with authority.
How the children saw him, the lepers he touched and made clean.
How the despised and the outcast found love and release from their sins. How the hypocrites feared him, whose words uncovered their sin.
Despised and rejected, acquainted with grief, he bore the sins of Israel.
All of us
Like sheep went astray, turned every one to his own way. Our iniquities were laid upon our king. The sins of this world became his burden to bear. He rose from the dead and opened the way to life everlasting. Praise be to his name. We are in him. His spirit empowers. New life is ours with joy and peace. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu ederech hayeshua b'Mashiach Yehoshua. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the way of salvation in Messiah Yehoshua. Amen. Blessing of the Shema. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or Uvarek Kosek Osei Shalom Uvarei Ra. Blessed are you, Yehovah our Elohim, King of the universe, who forms light and creates darkness, makes peace and creates evil. Isaiah 45:7. The Shema. Shema Yisrael, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malkuto Leolam Vayel. Hear, O Israel, Yehovah Eloheinu, Yehovah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. Amen. In the Vahavtah. Vahavtah et Yehovah Elohecha, B'kol levavka, uvkol nashtaka, uvkol me'adecha. Vahayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anuki matzavaka hayom al levaveka, v'shinam tam levaneka, v'dibartam bam b'shivtika, bevteka, uvlek b'ka v'aderek, uvshat b'ka uvkomeka, ushartam leo al yudeka, vahayu latotifot bain aneka, uvtatam al mezuzah beteka uvisha rekah. And you shall love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And have these words which I command you this day be upon your heart. And you shall teach them diligently to your children, and speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you retire, and when you arise. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and let them be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. V'havtah l'reacha kamoka, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Amen.
All right, you'll please join us in praise and worship.
when your work was done. We enter your rest by the work of your Son. We delight, we delight, we delight in your Shabbat. We delight, we delight, we delight in your Shabbat. Your people will enter your rest when we cry, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai.
Praise him in the morning for tall and lofty trees. And praise him in the evening for children on their knees. Oh, praise him on the noonday for gentle birds that sing. Praise him, all ye people, praise the King. Praise him in the peaceful porch and rocking chairs that sway. Praise him in the rolling hills where children laugh and pray. Oh, praise him for the wandering soul that never lost their way. Praise him, all ye people, praise the King.
Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King. Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King.
And praise him for the blood that fell and bloomed a rose that day. Praise him that he suffered through the guilt, the grief, the shame. Oh, praise him when his tender love will still forgive today. Praise him, all ye people, praise the King.
Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King. Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King. Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King. Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King.
One more time.
Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King. Praise the King, praise the King. Let it ring, praise the King.
Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Sing a new song to him who sits on heaven's mercy seat. creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, I will adore you. Clothed in rainbows of living colors, flashes of lightning, roars of thunder. Blessing and honor, strength and glory empower me. To you, the only wise King. Yeah. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Filled with wonder, awestruck wonder, at the mention of your name. Yeshua, your name is power, the breath of living water, such a marvelous mystery. Yeah. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Almighty, who was and is to come. With all creation I sing praise to the King of Kings. You are my everything, and I will adore you. The lost are saved, find their way at the sound of your great name. All condemned feel no shame at the sound of your great name. The enemy, he has to leave at the sound of your great name. Yeshua, worthy is the Lamb that was slain for us.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. There's to be one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you. Bamidbar, Numbers 15:16. And if you'll join me for the Ayin Kamoka. Ayin Kamoka Velohim Yahovah V'yein Hemasecha Melkuka Melkuk Kol Amim U'Memsheltecha V'Kodor Vador Yehovah Melech Yehovah Yehovah Yimlo Leolam Hayed Yehovah Osleil Mitain Yehovah Yerorek Edamoka Shalom. There is none like you among their gods, Yehovah, and there is nothing like yours. Your kingdom is a kingdom throughout all generations, and your dominion is forever. Yehovah reigns, Yehovah has reigned, Yehovah will reign forever and ever. Yehovah will give strength to his people, Yehovah will bless his people with peace. When the ark would travel, Vayehi ben so Aaron, Ve'omer Moshe, Ku'an Yehovah, Ve'afutzu oidecha, Ve'anusu mesanecha, mechanecha, Ki mitzion tezei Torah, Ki mitzion tezei Torah, Udevar Yehovah, Me'Yerushalayim, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan, Torah, Torah, Le'amo Israel, B'yadu Shuato. When the ark would travel, Moshe would say, Arise, Yehovah, and let your enemies be scattered, and let those who hate you flee from you. For the Torah will go forth from Zion, and the word of Yehovah from Yerushalayim. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Israel in his holiness. Amen.
May the Father of compassion have mercy on the nation that is born by him, and may he remember the covenant of the spiritually mighty. May he rescue our souls from the bad times and upbraid the evil inclination to leave those born by him. Graciously make us an eternal remnant and fulfill our requests in good measure for salvation and mercy. May he help shield and save all who take refuge in him. Now let us respond. Amen. All of you ascribe greatness to our Elohim, give honor to the Torah. Arise, Bil ben Yaakov, an Israelite, to come to the Bima to read from the Torah. Blessed is he who gave the Torah to his people Yisrael in his holiness. Barku et Yehovah Hambarak.
Hambarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Yehovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'kar benu v'kol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Yehovah Noten ha'Torah Noten ha'Torah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohim, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, Yehovah, giver of the Torah.
You said purple one's on.
Okay. The reading this morning will be from Bamidbar, Numbers, chapter 7, verse 1 through 17, and the Maftir, chapter 7, 84 through 89. And it came to be when Moshe finished setting up the dwelling place that he anointed it and set it apart and all its furnishings, as well as the slaughter place and all its utensils. Thus he anointed them and set them apart. And the leaders of Israel, heads of their fathers, houses who were the leaders of the tribes over the ones registered, drew near. And they brought their offering before Yehovah, 6 covered wagons and 12 cattle, a wagon for every two of the leaders, and for each one a bull. And they brought them near before the dwelling place. And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, Accept these from them, and they shall be used in doing the service of the tent of appointment. And you shall give them to the Levites, each one according to his service. And Moshe took the wagons and the cattle and gave them to the Levites. And he gave 2 wagons and 4 cattle to the sons of Gershon, according to the service. And he gave 4 wagons and 8 cattle to the sons of Merari, according to their service under the hand of Ithamar, son of Aharon the priest. But to the sons of Kehath he gave none, because theirs was the service of the set-apart objects, which they bore on their shoulders. And the leaders brought the dedication offering of the slaughter place in the day it was anointed. So the leaders brought their offering before the slaughter place. And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, Let them bring their offering, 1 leader each day, for the dedication of the slaughter place. And the one who brought his offering on the first day was Nahshon, son of Amminadab, from the tribe of Yehudah. And his offering was 1 silver dish, and the weight of which was 130 shekels, 1 silver bowl of 70 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. Both of them filled with fine flour mixed with oil as a grain offering. 1 gold ladle of 10 shekels filled with incense. 1 young bull, 1 ram, 1 male lamb, a year old, as an ascending offering. 1 male goat as a sin offering. And as a slaughtering of peace offering, 2 cattle, 5 rams, 5 male goats, 5 male lambs a year old. This was the offering of Nahshon, son of Abinadab. And the Maftir. This was the dedication of the slaughter place from the leaders of Israel when it was anointed. 12 silver dishes, 12 silver bowls, 12 golden ladles. Each silver dish was 130 shekels, each bowl 70 shekels. All the silver of the vessels was 2,400 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. The 12 golden ladles filled with incense was 10 shekels each, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. All the gold of the ladles was 120 shekels. All the cattle of the sending offering were 12 young bulls, the rams 12, the male lambs a year old 12, with their grain offering, and the male goats as a sin offering 20. And all the cattle for the slaughtering of the peace offerings was 24 bulls, the rams 60, the male goats 60, the lambs a year old 60. This was the dedication of the set-apart place after it was anointed. And when Moshe went into the tent of appointment to speak with him, he heard the voice of the one speaking to him from above the lid of the atonement that was on the ark of the witness from between the two cherubim. Thus he spoke to him.
The closing Torah blessings.
Baruch atah Yahovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah yemet, v'kaveh yolam natanu b'keinu. Baruch atah Yahovah, noten haTorah, noten haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahovah Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the Torah of truth and planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahovah, giver of the Torah.
He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Bil ben Yaakov. He has come up to read from the Torah in honor of Yahovah and his word. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, blessed is he, protect him and rescue him from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and prosperity in his every endeavor, together with all Israel, his brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. You'll join us in the Vezot.
Vezod HaTorah Asher Sham Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael Al Pei Yahovah Biyad Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moshe placed before the children of Israel at the command of Yahovah through Moshe's hand. Return, O Yahovah, to the countless thousands of Israel. Amen.
Now you may be seated. And I would like to call up Daphne Bad Abraham to come read from the Haftarah.
Use this one.
This is supposed to be on there. You'll join us in the opening Haftarah blessings. Baruch atah Yahovah Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar bin tovim v'razav et Ibrahim hanei amarim be'emet. Baruch atah Yahovah haboker b'torah uv Moshe ado uv Yisrael alamo uv inviei ha'emet v'zedek.
Blessed are you, Yahovah, our Elohim, King of the universe, who has selected good prophets and was pleased with their words which were spoken truthfully. Blessed are you, Yahovah, who chooses the Torah, your servant Moshe, your people Israel, and prophets of truth and righteousness. Is this okay? Shoftim, or Judges 13, 2 through 25. And there was a certain man from Zorah of the clan of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had not borne. And a messenger of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, See now, you are barren and have not borne, but you shall conceive, and you shall bear a son. And now please guard, and do not drink wine or strong drink, and do not eat any unclean food. For look, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and let no razor come upon his head, for the youth is a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb on, and he shall begin to save Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. And the woman came and spoke to her husband, saying, A man of Elohim came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of a messenger of Elohim, very awesome. And I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not declare to me his name. And he said to me, See, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and now drink no wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean food, for the youth is a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb to the day of his death. And Manoah prayed to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh, please let the man of Elohim whom you sent come to us again and teach us what to do for the youth who is to be born. And Elohim listened to the voice of Manoah, and the messenger of Elohim came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman ran hurriedly and informed her husband and said to him, See, he has appeared to me, the man who came to me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife and came to the man, and he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, Now let your words come true. What is to be the rule for the youth's life and his work? And the messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, Let the woman guard all that I said to her. Let her not eat any food that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, or eat any unclean food. Let her guard all that which I have commanded her. And Manoah said to the messenger of Yahweh, Please let us detain you and prepare a young goat for you. And the messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, Though you detain me, I do not eat your food. But if you offer an ascending offering, offer it to Yahweh. For Manoah did not know he was a messenger of Yahweh. Then Manoah said to the messenger of Yahweh, What is your name? When your words come true, then we shall esteem you. And the messenger of Yahweh said to him, Why do you ask my name, since it is wondrous? And Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it upon the rock to Yahweh. And he did wondrously while Manoah and his wife looked on. And it came to be, as the flame went up toward the heavens from the slaughter place, that the messenger of Yahweh went up in the flame of the slaughter place. And Manoah and his wife were watching, and they fell on their faces to the ground. And the messenger of Yahweh did not appear any more to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was a messenger of Yahweh. And Manoah said to his wife, We shall certainly die because we have seen Elohim. But his wife said to him, If Yahweh had been pleased to put us to death, he would not have accepted an ascending offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all this, nor would he have let us hear the like of this. So the woman bore a son and called his name Shimshon, and the child grew, and Yahweh blessed him. And the Spirit of Yahweh began to move him at Machane Dan between Zorah and Eshtaol.
Closing Haftarah blessings. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, Zor kol halamin, Zedek v'kol hadirov, Ha'el ha'neman, Ha'omer ve'oseh, Hamdabar u'kayam, Shekol devarah, Emet v'zedek, Ni'aman, Atahu Yehovah Eloheinu, V'ne'mani divraka, V'davar ad midvarecha, V'kol erishu rekam, Hiel melech ni'aman, V'rakaman atah, Baruch atah Yehovah, Ha'el ha'niman, V'kol devarah. Blessed are you, Yehovah Elohim, King of the universe, Rock of all eternity, faithful in all generations, who says and does, who speaks and makes it come to pass, all of whose words are true and righteous. Faithful are you, Yehovah Elohim, and faithful are your words, for not one word of yours is turned back unfulfilled. For you are a faithful El and King,
Blessed are you, Yahweh, the Elohim, who is faithful in all his words.
He who blessed our forefathers, Yitzhak, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, may he bless Daphne bat Abraham, because she has come up to read from the Haftarah. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect her and rescue her from every illness, and may he send blessings and success in her every endeavor, together with all Israel, her brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. Thank you. Now I'd like to call up Rita bat Abraham to read from the second writings. You'll join us in the opening blessing for the second writings. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, v'hakatavim shel ha'madin. Baruch atah Yehovah, notein ha'brit ha'torah. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us Messiah Yehoshua and the writings of the Talmudim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the covenant of the Torah.
Okay, today's reading is Yochanan 12, 20 through 36. And there were certain Greeks among those coming up to worship at the festival. These then came to Philip, who from Bethsaida of Galilee, and were asking him, saying, Master, we wish to see Yeshua. Philip came and told Andre, and in turn Andre and Philip told Yeshua. And Yeshua answered them, saying, The hour has come for the Son of Adam to be esteemed. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. He who loves his life shall lose it, and he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it for everlasting life. If anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, there my servant also shall be. If anyone serves me, the Father shall value him. Now I myself am troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this reason I came to this hour. Father, esteem your name. Then a voice came from the heaven. I have both esteemed it and shall esteem it again. So the crowd who stood by and heard it were saying, There had been thunder. Others said, A messenger has spoken to him. Yeshua answered and said, This voice did not come because of me, but for your sake. Now is the judgment of the world. Now the ruler of this world shall be cast out. And I, if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men unto myself. This he said, signifying by what death he was about to die. The crowd answered him, We have heard out of the Torah that the Messiah remains forever. And how do you say, the Son of Adam has to be lifted up? Who is the Son of Adam? Yeshua therefore said to them, Yet a little while the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you. And who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you become sons of light. These words Yeshua spoke and went off and was hidden from them.
Amen. Closing blessings for the second writings. Baruch atah Yehovah, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu hadavar ha'emet, v'tayeh olam atah b'tekenu. Baruch atah Yehovah, asher natan lanu Mashiach Yehoshua, v'hakatavim ha'talmudim. Blessed are you, Yahweh our Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us the word of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, who has given us Messiah and the writings of the Talmudim. He who blessed our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, may he bless Rita bat Abraham, because she has come up to read from the second writings in honor of Messiah and his teachings. As a reward for this, may the Holy One, the Father of our Messiah, blessed is he, protect her and rescue her from every trouble and distress, from every plague and illness, and may he send blessing and success in her every endeavor, together with all Israel, her brethren. Now let us respond. Amen. Thank you. please stand for the Etz Chaim? Etz Chaim hi l'makazim kiba v'tom he'amea u'ushar darakeha darkei noam ve'kol nativoteha shalom Hashivanu Yahovah Aleika Vanashuva Kadesh Kadesh Yameinu Kadesh Yameinu Ekedem. It is a tree of life to those who take hold of it, and those who support it are praiseworthy. Its ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. Bring us back, Yahovah, to you, and we shall come. Renew our days as of old. Amen. This concludes the Torah service, and you may be seated.
Technical difficulties today, front, center, and back. So, how about Shavuot, huh? That was fun. I enjoyed spending time with you all last Sunday in the park. Jillian went to summer camp this week. She won most spirited at engineering camp. I know, I was so proud. I was just beaming at the award ceremony. Michael, just put this one on and I'll just talk loud. Okay? You can shoot up. Okay. Guys, we're a nation of priests, not a nation of IT experts, okay? I'm gonna, if I'm right here, is that close enough to that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so this week's Parsha, Parsha NASO, to elevate, starts in number 4 through 7, and it's a long Parsha. If you saw it when I said 4 through 7, you thought, that sounds long. You would be right. It is the longest Parsha in the cycle, and it's really, really full. We have everything from the completing the counting of the sons of Levi, completing the census in general, some more of their consecration and the duties of the sons of Levi. We have stuff about purity in the camp, touches on restoration, of course, the drinking of the sotah.
Nazarite vow is in this portion, which is probably like the most famous, plus Aaronic benediction. So this is like chock full with like study material, okay? And I don't think we're gonna touch even probably a tenth of it, but we'll get started and try to get through as much of it as we can. And I started this, I started thinking that I would try to do something on number 7 because I think it gets often overlooked, the dedication offerings that are in the temple. I didn't make it there, but you should definitely look at number 7 sometime. So I didn't look at like what all those numbers mean, but we know John loves numbers, and I always tell this story. One time we were at this like mystery dinner theater, you know, and it's one of those ones where you eat and somebody dies, and then you have to like figure out who done it, you know, kind of thing. And I remember there was this guy at our table who was like, "The answer is in the numbers. It's in the numbers." And we were like, yeah, you know, whatever. And then come around to the end time, and he was the only one that got it. Like, we didn't listen to him. And so I just always think about that when I read a portion that has a lot of numbers in it. Yahweh doesn't do anything randomly, so I know it's got to be important for some reason. We're not going to get there, but I would encourage everyone to go back and look at number 7. So let's get started. This portion actually starts in 4, chapter 20, verse 21. But it's really kind of a continuation of the counting of the sons of Levi, which are who? The Gershonites, the Merarites, and Kohathites. Yay for audience participation. So this week we're kind of drilling down on some of the responsibilities of the Gershonites and the Merarites. Last week we looked at the Kohathites, and it doesn't really say why they're kind of split up into 2. But it's my personal opinion that they're split into 2. You want me to try now?
Everything, yeah.
Okay.
The boards wasn't turned on.
Okay.
No, now we gotta turn on. Take your pick. Which one do you want?
Okay.
Sorry about all that.
That's okay. The God. Oh wait. No, I'm not. Okay. How about now? There we go. It's not for us here, by the way. It's for to pick up to go online. So if you're new here, and we do have some new people, so everyone say hi to them. Hi. That's why it's important that we're on the mics, even though I'm clearly loud enough. So these 2 portions about the Kohathites and the Gershonites and Merarites, they're split into 2 portions. And it's my personal opinion that these instructions were really being handed out to Eleazar and Ithamar, the priests. The Kohathites belonged essentially to Eleazar, Aaron's son, and the Gershonites and the Merarites belonged to Ithamar. And so I think that they're probably split up because he's giving instructions to 2 separate people. So he's like, okay, you got your instructions, and now let me give instructions to your brother. So, and we know that they, Ithamar and Eleazar and Aharon, they are the ones who are ultimately responsible for the tabernacle, for all of the items in the tabernacle, the sanctity of the tabernacle, the purity, the setting up just right, showbread, all these things. We know that they are ultimately responsible for the tabernacle, and that, you know, the clans of Levite were basically just assigned to them. So if you look in, and we're going to be flipping around a little bit today, a lot in Numbers, but just have your Bibles handy. So if you look in Numbers 3, starting in verse 5, it says, Yahweh spoke to Moses, bring the tribe of Levi near and present them to Aharon the priest to assist him. They are to perform duties for him and the entire community before the tent of meeting by attending to the service of the tabernacle. And then in verse 9 and 10, it says, again, assign the Levites to Aharon and his sons. They have been assigned exclusively to him from the Israelites. You are to appoint Aharon and his sons to carry out the priestly responsibilities, but an unauthorized person who comes near the sanctuary must be put to death. Okay, so just to drive home that point, we can see that the descendants of Levi were really essentially just the helpers of Aharon and his sons, the priests, meaning that as we know, not all Levites were priests, but they all took part in priestly duties, that they had. And we talked about that a little bit in Parsha Tetzaveh a while back, the one about the garments of the priests, and when we talked about them sanctifying the garments of the priests. And that was back in Exodus 28, if you want to look at that. But so we talked about how there's sort of kind of levels of hierarchical progression as it relates to our proximity to Yahweh. And as you come closer, the more responsibilities you have to go along with that. And so we all, as Israel, and again, I always say, if you're confused about who Israel is, come talk to me after today. But we all, as Israel, we are to be a set-apart nation, right? A nation of priests. But we don't have all the same responsibilities that the tribe of Levi did, that the clans of Levi did, who had priestly duties actually assigned to them, okay? And such as assisting with the tabernacle, and even more so, Aharon and his sons. Even Levi, the Levites, the Gershonites, the Merarites, and the Kohathites were not as sanctified. They were not as set apart, even as Aharon and his son. And you can see that because even the Kohathites, even though their duty, in Numbers 3, you can read that their duty was the ark, the table, the lampstand, the slaughter places, the utensils of the set-apart place used in the service, and the covering in all its service. So even though it was the duty of the Kohathites to assist Eleazar in the dwelling place with the most set-apart objects, we still read at the beginning of Numbers 4:15, it says, "When Aharon and his sons have finished covering the set-apart objects and all the furnishings of the set-apart place at the breaking of camp, then the sons of Kohath shall come to lift them, but let them not touch that which is set apart, lest they die. These matters are the burdens of the son of Kohath." Okay, so we can see that even though they have been assigned these holy set-apart objects, they are still do not have as many responsibilities on them as the priests who had to go in and actually do the covering. They still weren't even allowed to come into contact with them, or else they would die. So again, kind of distinguishing this sort of, the closer you come, the more responsibilities you have, the more responsibility you have on yourself to be sanctified, okay? And so this week we start in verse 21, chapter 4, and we are going to be talking about the roles and the responsibilities of the Gershonites and the Merarites under the supervision of Ithamar. So the Gershonites, what were they responsible for? Yeah. So just a quick list, and you can see it there. The curtains of the dwelling place of the tent of appointment with its covering, the covering for the door of the tent of appointment, the screen of the courtyard, and the covering for the door of the gate for the courtyard, which is around the dwelling place, the slaughter place and its cords, and all the equipment for their service, and all that is made for them. Okay, so kind of sort of starting to see when we talked about when Yahweh set up the tabernacle in Parsha Terumah, we talked about how it was built from the inside out, okay? Just like we are to be changed in our heart, circumcised in our heart from the inside out. But just as we were built from the inside out, now Yahweh's also breaking this thing down from the inside out. So the Kohathites come inside, pack up the dwelling place. The Gershonites, they come, they get all the coverings of it and everything like that. And says, "So shall they serve at the mouth of Aharon and his sons in all the service of the sons of the Gershonites, all their burden and all their service, and you shall appoint to them all the duty of their burden." Okay, so that's for the Gershonites. Now, verse 29, we start in on the Merarites. Okay, what were they responsible for? Exactly. You can see we're moving out, further, more and more out, okay? The boards of the dwelling place and its bars, its columns and its sockets, the columns around the courtyard with their sockets and their pegs, and the cords with all their equipment and their service. And it says, I think this is 29, verse 29, "And assign to each by name the equipment of the duty of their burdens," for the Merarites, okay? Now, I want us to kind of look back a little bit at those verses that we just read about the Kohathites and the Gershonites and the Merarites. And is there anything funny or kind of pops out at you about what we read just now for those three about their service? No funny business at all? So let me read them. Numbers, all right, 4:15. And Aharon and his sons have finished covering the set-apart objects and the furnishing the set-apart place of the break into camp. Then the sons of Kohath came to lift them, but lest they not touch them and the set-apart, lest they die. These matters are the burden of the sons of Kohath in the tent of appointment. Okay, hop down to 27. The mouth of Aharon and his sons in all the service of the sons of the Gershonites, all their burdens and all their service, and you shall appoint to them all the duty of all their burden. Okay? And then down in 31, 32 looks like, and the columns around the courtyard and their sockets and their pegs and their cords and all the equipment with all their service, and assign to each by name the equipment of the duty of their burden. Okay, so now do we notice anything kind of weird? Well, okay, so maybe it's just me, but I was sort of struck by the fact that it keeps calling their service in the tabernacle a burden. And again, in the portion that Mr. Bill read today in 7, in verse 9, I think, it says, like, this was the duty of the Kohathites, which they bore on their shoulders. So they physically bore it, right, because they picked it up and they carried it. But it was also, metaphorically speaking, they also had to bear the weight of this highly important duty. And so it's kind of funny to think about, like, we don't often associate Yahweh, the work that we do for Yahweh, as a burden. And actually, the Scriptures Bible does a really good job translating it. If you have a different Bible, it probably says service. But the Hebrew word there for what it's saying right there for burden, for service, or whatever it uses, is abadah, and it's actually translated as bondage, or it's the same word as the word for bondage. And so it's kind of strange for us to think sort of the Levites in bondage. But the truth of the matter, as we talked about in Tetzaveh, is that being ultra set apart, as the priests were, as the Levites were, and even as we are supposed to be, comes with a price. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard, to whom much is given, much is expected, or with great power comes great responsibility, that kind of thing. Okay, all these cliche things. And this is really a good example of that, okay? We have the responsibility, a great responsibility, to protect our witness at all costs, okay? So remember when we talked about Joseph, at one point, every bad name that could possibly be flung at him, every accusations of rape and ridiculous things were being flung at him. All he had to protect himself was his reputation. And that meant the difference between life and death, because while, yes, he still got sent to prison, Potiphar did not kill him based on his reputation. And so all we have is our reputation. We have to protect our witness at all costs. And when you're given this blessing of being in covenant with Yahweh, there are measurable benefits, obviously. Protection in the things to come, eternal life with him and his son, and all of these blessings. But as a result, we have more of a burden, so to speak, to keep the word. Because we're called by his name. If you say, I belong to Yahweh, we're being called by his name, it is your burden to make sure that you don't profane his name, right? Third commandment, is that the third commandment? Third commandment, don't profane his name, okay? So that's why it's very, very important to us to maybe think of our work kind of like a bondage. And remember, not all bondage is bad. Bondage comes from binding, right? Something that's legally binding. So anytime you enter into a contract with somebody or a covenant with somebody, even marriage, I would say that those of you who are in marriage are in bondage. And we always think of like the negative connotations. I see all the men like, yeah. We always think of all the negative connotations of that. But really what you're just saying is that you have entered into a legally binding contract with somebody. And in the case of Yahweh, we have a choice. We have a choice to enter into it, or we have a choice to leave it. And so it's not true bondage in that we are stuck there forever, but you are legally bound when you say, yes, all that you say we shall do, or when you go and sign those marriage papers and you have come into covenant, into a contract with your partner. Go ahead, Julie.
Or we choose to
Yeah.
be slaves to the Father and His ways. So we have a choice. We can choose one or the other.
Right. And that's not a bad place to be in, right? I mean, even on like a way, way, way smaller level, even on a micro level, remember in Exodus 20, I think, it gives all of the rules for the slaves for releasing them. And there's like a whole chapter on like if they love you and want to stay with you. There's like a whole section. That is the example. That is the example that you should be setting. In that 7th year, when it's time to let them go, they should be saying, no, you treat me so well. I don't have to worry about anything. Please let me stay here and work with you. That is the example, okay? And so there wouldn't be that, he wouldn't mention that contingency unless that were what we were supposed to be living up to.
And He calls us friends. We're co-laborers with Him. He calls us His friends. So
Yeah.
if I have to be in bondage to anybody, that's who I want to be in bondage to.
Absolutely. That was a good point. I'm glad you brought that out. So the fact of the matter is the service of the sons of Levi, the service that they were assigned to do, it was both their blessing and their curse, right? Or rather, I guess it was kind of the blessing that came out of their curse, okay? And what do I mean by that? If you will, you can turn back to Bereshith chapter 49, or Genesis chapter 49. And if someone will read verses 5 through 7.
Simeon and Levi are brothers, their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council, let my esteem not be united to their assembly. Because they killed a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and the rash, for it is cruel. I divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel.
Yeah. Do I need to read that again so it's on the thing? Or okay. I never think of that. Because sometimes when I watch them and I ask you guys to like read stuff, and then you watch it, it's just blank. Sorry. Okay, so Shimeon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council. Let my esteem not be united to their assembly. Because they killed a man in their pleasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel. Okay, so this is literally the final blessing given to Levi by his father Yaakov. He gathers all his sons together, and Ephraim and Manasseh, and he's like saying all this nice things, and you're going to have hold the scepter over your sons and all this stuff. Well, except for Reuben. He didn't really say anything real nice, but as to be expected, right? But then he comes to Levi and Shimeon, and he's like, and you guys don't even get me started. Why did he say this? Why did he give them this sort of curse blessing curse? This sort of conditional blessing? Who remembers why Yaakov is mad at them? Yeah, because, and I'll just quickly tell the story for those who don't know it. They were in the land of the Canaanites. They were in a city of Shechem, and the son of Shechem wanted to marry their sister after he did some bad stuff, so let's not leave that out. But anyway, seems like Yaakov is kind of amenable to it, and Levi and Shimeon, they come up with this whole plan that they're going to tell the men of Shechem, okay, we'll enter into an arrangement with you, we'll live with you, we'll be with you, but you have to be circumcised first. And then on the third day of their circumcision, when all the men are really hurting and everything, Levi and Shechem come in and they slaughter everybody. And you know that Yaakov, he didn't set them out to do this, because right after they do it, Yaakov comes to them and he says, you have troubled me by making me a stench among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I am few in number, and they shall gather themselves against me and shall strike me, and I shall be destroyed, my household and I. So the boys had clearly ignored the will, or at least had deceived their father that they were going to do this. And so in doing so, they sort of undermine his authority. And so then Yaakov, when it comes time for him to die, he gives them this blessing, okay? But it's very interesting to see how this blessing has really played out in history, because how did Yahweh choose to play out, to met out this curse, essentially? Yeah, but before that, he put them in charge. He selected them to be his firstborn. And so, Rick and I were talking about this the other day. Why put a man who clearly has trouble with authority in charge? And, what did you say? I said, what's the best thing to do if you have a soldier in your unit who is sort of unruly, but obviously very talented, obviously has a lot of potential, but maybe it just wants to kind of push the envelope a little bit, challenge authority a little bit? What do? Yeah, give him something to do, right? Isn't that what you said? He said the best thing to do is give him something to do. And that's a very common technique, okay? So businesses use this, sports teams, they use it in the military. Oftentimes, you can have somebody who's very smart, very promising, yet kind of an authority-challenging person on your team, and you really want them to focus all that effort in the right direction, right? So you actually put them into positions of authority. And then these people who are often very smart, ultra creative, a lot of attention to detail type people, you probably know people like this in your life. They really need an outlet kind of for all of that energy. And so once you put them into an authoritative position, you see that all that time they spent sort of trying to subvert the will of the authority is they ended up making a really good leader themselves, okay? And they sort of redirect it in the right direction. And I think that's what we're seeing here with Levi, because Yahweh knows that Levi is very capable, right? He is a very capable, obviously very smart. I mean, that scam they ran on Shechem, I wouldn't have thought of that. But more importantly, I think he sees that Levi responds to something other than rules, and that's a call to duty. It seems like they have a higher call to duty, and that was what they thought was their duty, was to go in and avenge their sister. Although I would maybe argue it was a little for their own glory rather than the glory of Yah. So, but still, no doubt that's what they thought. They thought, I have this sense of purpose, this sense of duty. And so Yahweh, in all of his wisdom, he doesn't change the curse that Yaakov gives them. He doesn't make it different. What he does is the same thing he does all the time, is he works within that to still accomplish what he needs to be done, okay? And so he sets Levi apart from his brothers, and he knows that because of their zeal, because of this sense of duty, he knows that they are going to have the ability, probably the unique ability, to do what needs to be done, basically, to make the hard choices. And we know that most of what Levi had to do was really hard, was really the hard choices, right? Hence the incident with the golden calf. I mean, they stood up for Yahweh, but they had to take up arms against their brothers. I mean, that couldn't have been easy. And so the roles of Levi in the kingdom, both Kohanim, both priests and non-priests, were filled with unpleasant stuff, okay? And so I kind of want to look at, I want to see what all we can think of were the roles of the Levites, okay? So let's shout some out here. What were the roles of the Levites? Hold on. Can I use this? Look, Mr. Bill painted this. Isn't it so pretty? I wish it was pink, but whatever. Black will work, I guess. So I have a few written down here, and I can fill in the gaps, but I just wanted to see like how many we could kind of think of off the top of our head. So both Kohanim and non-Kohanim. So you can mention the roles of the priests or just the clans of Levi as well. Yeah, but as far as like what they actually had to do. Yeah, they had to take care of the tabernacle. Yeah. So like when they had to take up sacrifices for people, like for their sin offerings and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, pretty much any kind of offerings as intercession, whether, peace, everything, yeah. And that couldn't have been easy, right? Would that have been easy for anyone in here to take an animal and slaughter it? That couldn't have been easy, I don't think. What else? No. That's it? That's all we could think of? Yeah, so like clean up the... Yeah, those are the major ones. And these are the major ones of the priests. Okay, not to mention just the clans of Levi having to go and take in and break down. But also think about the mental and physical task or toll it would take on the priests who had to keep the lampstand burning at all times, keep the showbread out at all times. I mean, this is a very physically and mentally demanding people, okay? It's a very demanding job, and so, what else? So they acted as judges in certain cases, and we're going to read about one of those today. Okay. Thank you, Elena. Wasn't all guts and gore. Did you know they were also like the writers of most of the Psalms, aside from David, that were the Levites? And so these were non-priests, non-Kohanim, although I'm sure the Kohanim probably could have if they wanted to. It's just the idea that they were more focused with keeping the bread out and the table lit. So the other Levites would sing psalms in the dwelling. What was I going to say? Sing. I don't even know why I'm numbering. There's so many.
It's not like they're seasoned, salt and pepper, and it's just...
Yeah, they had salt in their offering. Is that me? I like goat meat.
The biggest thing to me would be that they were the administration, the organizers. They said, Now it's time to do this, now it's time to do that.
Yeah.
We got to keep the gates. You can come in, you can go out. You can't come in, you can't go out. It's time to do this, time to do that.
Yes. And they were, oh, thank you. I'm probably still going to just keep rubbing it with my hand, but I appreciate that. Yeah, so they had to take direct orders from Yahweh at times too. We see that in, I think, right before Joshua maybe, when he's telling Eleazar, like, you need to tell them when to come in, when to go out.
That is taking direct orders. It gives you, prompts you to do something. But they were also the ones who did the prompting for the masses of the people.
Right.
So you have to pitch camp, you have to take up camp. Somebody has to tell 6,000 people.
Issuing decrees and stuff. Yeah, exactly. And so along that same lines, what does it say in Deuteronomy 30:33? They're to teach the word. Okay, so that's a big one. And that's
Keeping time and holidays and they'll be.
absolutely. Calendar. See, I didn't even think of that one. I knew you guys would come up with more. I'm sorry, I don't know. But I would assume that they would be the ones orchestrating that. Yes. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to point out. They essentially function as doctors a lot of time in this ancient society, right? Because what happens when somebody has a discharge? When somebody has skin disease, rash, boils, anything, the priests are the ones who are responsible for going there, diagnosing the problem, doing the ritual cleansings, sending them out of town. By the way, do you think it would also be easy to quarantine your brothers and sisters? I don't think that would be easy for me either. When I started looking at some of the duties, I started thinking like, God, that's hard. Like, how could you? It's like telling somebody at work you're fired. Like, you're fired. Get out of here. But so they really function honestly as doctors a lot of times in this. So they were lawyers and doctors. They had to teach the law and do that. We talked about how they receive Yah's word directly, singing psalms, judges. Yeah, scribes, and I would put that under here too. And one thing that I think we're forgetting is everyone thinks that just because back in Numbers 3, I think, Numbers 2, I did write it down, Numbers 2:33, okay? Everyone thinks because Levi doesn't get called out as part of the army, that their men are not to partake in going out in the army, that they're like some kind of like wussy little dudes. I think we know that that's not true. We've seen how Levi acts and reacts in all throughout history. So they were there. Somebody had to stay behind and protect the tabernacle and protect the place where Yah made his name known. And so the Levites were bad dudes. They were bad, okay? They were warriors, and they would protect the tabernacle at all costs. So if you think that because they weren't called out as part of the army, that they were like these wimpy little left-behinds, not the case. In fact, I would argue that it probably made them the most ferocious because they were willing to stay back and protect where Yahweh had made his name known, and he did that on purpose, okay? So those were kind of all the ones. Let's see if I had any others. Have you guys thought of any others? It's kind of what I was thinking. But I knew I wouldn't think of them all. So we can see here, right, the job of the Levites, the priests and otherwise, we can see is very heavy, very difficult job. They had proven themselves in this capacity to accomplish the hard tasks, okay, in a way that none of the other brothers did. And that's why in Numbers 3, in last week's portion, we see Yahweh tells Moses, and I was going to have somebody read this, but for the sake of the video, I'll just read it. You can follow along, starting in verse 40, 3 verse 40. Register all the firstborn males of the children of Israel from a new moon old and above, and take the number of their names, And you shall take the Levites for me, I am Yahweh, instead of all the firstborn among the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites, instead of all the firstborn among the livestock of the children of Israel. Moshe registered all the firstborn among the children of Israel, as Yahweh had commanded him, and all the firstborn males by the number of names, from 1 new moon old, meaning a month old, and above. Of their registered ones were 22,273. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, verse 45, take the Levites instead of all their firstborn among the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock. And the Levites shall be mine. I am Yahweh. And for the ransom of 273 of the firstborn of the children of Israel, who are more than the number of the Levites. Okay, so obviously the full number of the firstborn of all the other tribes were greater than the tribe of all the men of Levi. So there was a little bit of a disparity, okay? But not too much. What does it say, John? 273, okay, so not many. For all the 273 of the firstborn who are not in the number of the Levites, you shall take 5 shekels of 20 gerahs, and you shall give the silver, the ransom of those who are in excess among them, to Aharon and his sons. And Moshe took the ransom silver from those who were over and above those who were ransomed by the Levites. Okay, so all the firstborns had to be redeemed in Israel. And Yahweh takes the Levites as the firstborn for himself instead of the redemption price for all, or as the redemption price for all of the firstborn males of the rest of the tribes. And then where there was excess, those people just had to pay some silver for the ransoming of for the redemption of their firstborn, okay? Okay, so we see Levi here, he gets this title of firstborn, but wait a second. I thought Joseph got the blessing of the firstborn, and his sons Manasseh and Ephraim. Don't we read that in 1 Chronicles? It says his birthright was given to Joseph, son of Israel. Yaakov gave his birthright, 11th son. Yes. Thank you. Somebody remembered. Okay. So we talked about this before, and I think there's kind of 2 things here, so I want to talk about both of them a little bit. So there are 3 parts to the blessing of a firstborn. Okay? The firstborn is expected to be a king and a priest of their family, and then in order to carry out those duties, they are given a double portion, the blessing of a double portion of the resources, right? In the idea that if they're doing all this work, they need the extra resources in order to carry this work out. Okay. But we know in the case of Joseph, in the case of his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, that he only got the blessing of the double portion. Why? Because he had proven to be a very diligent, responsible manager of the resources, right? Yaakov had him looking over their sheep, i.e., see famine in the table of contents, right? You know, Joseph, he really, he had proven himself that he was able to manage resources, not for his own benefit, but for the benefit of all of his people and really all of the nations in general. Okay, so he gets that. And then we know that Judah got the blessing of the kingship, right? What does it say in 2 Samuel? That a descendant of David will sit on the throne forever. And that's why he carries the scepter, okay? So we have the double portion and the kingship, leaving the priesthood wide open for who? For Levi. And so the responsibility of being the priest, the orders of his word, the receivers of his word, is left up to that tribe. And remember that little tidbit that Daphne read in Yaakov's blessing to them about how they were going to be scattered into the rest of Yaakov and they're going to be absorbed into Israel. Okay, that came true. You can even read in Joshua 21, you can see how the Levites went out and they had cities, but they didn't have land that belonged to them. But they basically lived in cities on land belonging to the rest of their brothers, essentially. And but the Levites, they actually get a better inheritance than land, which is what? Yahweh himself as their portion. Numbers 18, verse 20. Yahweh said to Aharon, "You are not to have an inheritance in the land, nor any portion in their midst. I am your portion and your inheritance among the children of Israel." Okay, so in that way, Yahweh making himself the portion for them, they're actually taken as the firstborn to Yahweh himself. Okay, so while Joseph is still technically considered the firstborn of Yaakov, the Levites are being taken as the firstborn of Yahweh. Does that make sense? In that way, because he is their portion and their inheritance. So it's kind of a funny thing, right? How that whole curse for Levi, how that kind of played out, and how Yahweh really transformed that curse really to look like a blessing. And one thing that really, really popped out at me about this is over and over and over in Scripture, we see men who are despising their birthrights, right? Who are giving up their birthrights for nothing, for bowls of porridge, okay? But here we have the opportunity to see how a man or a descendants of a man can actually earn a birthright from nothing. And so that is a really important distinction. You can lose your birthright, but Levi shows us you can also earn a birthright by standing up and saying, "I'm with the Father. I'm with him." Like remember those old shirts, like, "I'm with stupid," or whatever. But it's not like that. It's like, "I'm with Yahweh." That's what kind of shirt you want to have. So that is really, really cool to me about Levi. And so I want to look one more thing about them. Turn to Deuteronomy 33. Okay, now this is Moshe's blessing over all of the tribes, right before he is about to also be taken up into his people, a.k.a. right before he dies, okay? So we read Yaakov's blessing over Levi. Now, Moshe over Levi, and he said, and of Levi he said, "Your Tumim and your Urim belong to your lovingly committed one, whom you tried at Massa, with whom you contended at the waters of Meribah." Oh my gosh, I wish we had time to get into that. I will save that for that portion. "Who said of his father and mother, I have not seen them, and he did not acknowledge his brother or know his children, for they have guarded your word and watched over your covenant. They teach your right rulings to Yaakov and your Torah to Israel. They put incense before you and a complete ascending offering on your slaughter place." Now here, look at this, verse 11. "O Yahweh, bless his strength and accept the works of his hands. Smite the loins of those who rise against him and of those who hate them, that they rise no more." Wow, what a difference. What a difference between this blessing and Levi's blessing before. Okay? They have redeemed themselves by standing for Elohim, and they have, as a common colloquial turn of phrase, changed their destiny, essentially, right? I mean, they have, by standing with Yahweh, they have, it's just amazing. So, moving on to chapter 5, and we're not going to do too much stuff here. I just want to quickly go through the Sotah. So chapter 5, you start in chapter 5, you see we have the instructions for quarantining a sick person, and then we have the example of the Sotah right after that. I think it's because, okay, so it's talking about Levi, and sometimes these verses get thrown in here, and it can be like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, why are those just like in the middle of like Numbers and counting and like giving out duties of the Levites? Well, I think it's because to show some of the stuff that we talked about here, right? He's like, here are the Gershonites and the Merarites and the Canaanites, the Kohathites, and they have all these duties on them, and they're all really tough. For example, they have to take care of the purity of the camp by sending people with a discharge out, and also make judgments, pass judgments on people, as here in the case with the Sotah. Okay, so I'm not going to get like real deep into it, but I just felt like, as a feminist woman, this verses really hit home with me, and I need to just quickly describe to everybody the importance of the sotah, okay? So, you've heard that that Christianity, that Judaism, that Judeo-Christian religions are oppressive to women, right? And people like to point at this verse. See? Aha! Look what the women had to go through. Okay. Well, I'm here to tell you what a blessing this was. Okay? Let's just go ahead and read it. Let's read it. I know it's kind of long, but here. Where's that other mic? Because I need to take some water. Can somebody else read it?
Let's do.
All right. 12 basically through the end. Thanks for volunteering, Daphne.
I'm going to start with 11. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, When any man's wife turns aside and has committed a trespass against him, and a man has intercourse with her, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught, and a spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or a spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself. Then the man shall bring his wife to the priest, and he shall bring the offering for her 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour. He is not to pour oil on it or put frankincense on it, because it is a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for remembering.
Hold on really fast. I just want to point out something right away. Right away, like, Yahweh is not pleased about this, right? He's like, don't put any frankincense on that. Don't put any oil on this. This isn't a good offering. This isn't the kind of offering you want to be making, okay? He hates this, okay? You can see by the way it's like, okay, bring it. Go on, bring it. But don't try to flour it up, okay? Sorry, Daphne, go ahead.
Because it is a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for remembering, for bringing crookedness to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near, and shall make her stand before Yahweh. How far did you want me to read?
I guess the whole thing. Can you do that?
Yeah. And the priest shall take the set-apart water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the dwelling place, and put it into the water. And the priest shall make the woman stand before Yahweh, and shall uncover the woman's head, and put the offering for remembering in her hands, which is the grain offering of jealousy, while the priest holds in his hand the bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall make her swear, and say to the woman, If no man has lain with you, and if you have not turned aside to uncleanness under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have turned aside under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then the priest shall make the woman swear with the oath of the curse, and he shall say to the woman, Yahweh make you a curse and an oath among your people, when Yahweh makes your thigh waste away and your belly swell, and this water that causes the curse shall go into your inward parts, and make your belly swell and your thigh waste away. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. And the priest shall write these curses in a book, and shall wipe them off into the bitter water, and shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings the curse, and the water that brings the curse shall enter her to become bitter. And the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before Yahweh, and bring it to the slaughter place. And the priest shall take a hand filled with the offering as its remembrance offering, and burn it on the slaughter place, and afterward make the woman drink the water. And when he has made her drink the water, then it shall be, if she has defiled herself, and has committed a trespass against her husband, that the water that brings the curse shall enter her and become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thigh shall waste away, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be clear and shall conceive children. This is the Torah of jealousy, when a wife turns aside under her husband's authority and defiles herself, or when a spirit of jealousy comes upon a man, and he becomes jealous of his wife. Then he shall make the woman stand before Yahweh, and the priest shall do to her all this Torah. And the man shall be clear from crookedness, but the woman bear her crookedness.
Okay, so I don't have too much to say about this, and you probably already all know where I'm going to go with this. and that's fine. I just want to make sure that everyone is equipped with what this really meant before people bring it up to you out, in the world. Okay, think about what was going on at the time in a common kind of punishment for Eastern women in Eastern religions, the people, the pagans and the Muslims and the people that would have been around Israel, okay, up till today, from then until now. But there's no recourse for a woman, right? So any man can take his wife and say, she cheated on me, and immediately put her to death. She has no trial, she has no jury, she has no say, she has nothing, okay? So, yeah, John? I think the last killing, the last adultery murder that I read about was 2016. So that's pretty recent history, like you're saying. Exactly.
Oh, they'll still do.
So you have to realize what Yahweh is doing here, in that he knows the heart of man, and he knows that when a sense of jealousy comes across them, that it's like a fire that cannot be consumed, okay? It cannot be quelled at all, and that it destroys the relationship. And we know that Yahweh, our relationships with one another are so important to him, especially amongst man and wife. There's actually a cute little word say, which I'm sure you all have seen, about man and wife and ish and fire. Have we done that in here before? We can do it at the end if you guys want to, but I didn't come up with it, by the way. Yeah, it's something that people bring up a lot in this portion, right? We'll do it at the end, but the thing that I really just wanted to point out is that not only does the woman have a chance to defend herself here and prove her innocence, also look what it says, that if a woman is not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be clear and shall conceive children. So she actually gets a blessing if she is taken into this ordeal, and this is put upon her, and she's found to be innocent. Not only is she found to be innocent and has the opportunity for that restoration with her family, she also gets the added blessing. And it doesn't say here, but I think traditionally people have thought, even if the woman was barren before that time, that her womb would open up and she would conceive children. So this is really Yahweh taking care of us and looking after us and making sure that we have recourse and an ability to defend ourselves and answer accusations that come on us. And that was really, really unique at the time, and in some ways it's still very unique. Go ahead, Julie. Yes.
And then it washes us clean of adultery, and then we are able to bear children.
And be remarried or restored to our bridegroom.
Yes, bear spiritual children.
Absolutely. Yeah, he says, Father, I know it's not possible, but if you could just take this cup away from me. Okay, that's the cup he's talking about, this cup of the sotah, this water. And like Julie said, that is what allows us to be restored in our relationship with Yahweh, as man and wife are restored here in this relationship. So I love these verses, and I love it when people bring them up to me, because I just want to say, wait a second, you're looking at this all wrong. Here's what you got to know, okay? So just equip yourselves with that next time somebody seeks to kind of slander your father's name over something false like that. Trying to think if there's anything else. Moral of the story is keep Yahweh in your relationships here. Okay. And I guess that's all I have for this week. I can do that little word study if you guys want to look at it real quick. You want to do it? Okay. I'm sure you guys have seen it before. Like I said, I didn't come up with it. Y'all, please forgive me. I'm not a Hebrew scholar. Maybe I gotta let Bill do it or Elena. All right. So, what is the Hebrew word for man? Ish. Yeah. Huh? No, I'm not trying to. Uh-huh. The aleph and the yod and the shin. Do you want to scribe for me? I know it's like. I'm not a scribe, okay? Does someone else who's better at writing want to write this? You want to? Okay. Well, if nobody's going to volunteer, then I don't want to hear anything about my poor penmanship. I'm sorry. I'm not very good. Oh, Michael, are you going to do it? Thank you.
Actually, Trey's going to. You keep writing. I'll let him do the other color. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Good. What's the Hebrew word for woman? Isha, which is. Yeah, go ahead, fix it. I need to be in that afternoon Hebrew class. It's an aleph and a yod. And a shin. Okay, good. Much better. Give him a hand. Come on. No, you're not done yet. All right. Then the word for woman is isha. So you'll have the aleph again and the shin. And the hey. It has the space, yeah. It's like a little house, and then there's it's the one with the space in it.
Brain fart. Sorry.
That's okay. Like, y'all make fun of me now. Okay, so even that's like so sloppy compared to his. Okay, so Isha, right? Oh, we'll do the other color. Okay, so this letter here and this letter here make up what name? Yeah. Okay. Has the name. Well, you can see it. You can see there's a space. Okay, guys, I'm not a scribe. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. All right. So, the name of our Father, the name of our Elohim, the name of God, Yah, is in Ish and Isha, in between man and woman. And if you were to take these out, what all are you left with? An aleph and a shin. Thanks, bud. Which means fire. Okay. So if you, the idea being, right, if you take Yahweh, if you take the name of God out of your relationship between man and woman, you are left with an all-consuming fire. And that's what this grain offering of jealousy is all about. Because he knows that jealousy is an emotion that grips people, and until it is settled officially once and for all, it cannot be quelled, basically. You know what I mean? It just burns out of control. Okay, so that's why it's so important to quell this jealousy. He's got to do it effectively, he's got to do it officially, and it's got to be permanent. So the man, after this point, has no choice but to admit that he was wrong and then work himself on restoring this relationship. And by the way, with this, if you know that that the woman has this recourse to defend themselves through this official ritual, that's also going to make you kind of think twice, as a man, I would imagine, about bringing your wife before the priest in the first place. Because it's like, you kind of start to examine, okay, am I just like a extremely jealous person, or has something actually changed here? So I would feel like this would really also cut down on just like the whim jealousy as well, because you know that if you're wrong, you have to go and embarrass yourself in front of the priest, in front of everybody, and let them know that you are just like a jealous man, right? So the idea, again, is that you keep the yod and the hey, you keep Yah's name in between man and woman in your relationship, and then you have a relationship the way it's supposed to be between man and woman. You have peace and tranquility and love and everything that is good in a relationship, as long as you keep Yahweh in your relationship, okay? So that's that. People often do that one in this study. If you guys hadn't seen it, you probably have. So that's all. That's it. Thanks, Trey, for helping me out here. Any questions, comments, things that popped out at you guys about this? Anything about the Nazarite vow or the Aaronic benediction or anything like that you guys want to talk about? No, you've already been sitting here too long? Okay. Well, then we're done. Do you have the clicker?
Yeah, I kind of.
Oh, okay.
Like two little things.
Oh, okay.
So one was you said a man can, but it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that what you can decide. It says you shall. You are jealous, respected. You have to.
Yeah, and why?
Well, and there's actually a sacrifice basically for your jealousy. The man is to bring forth the sacrifice if he. Yep. And I had not noticed it in that way. And also, the actual sotah itself, it's just words on paper, right? Just words, and I think sometimes we forget that words have power, and the power that's in them. And the same word that's on the paper gets scratched off and it goes into the water. But there's the power in that. It's either a blessing or a curse. And it's the same, ink on the parchment, whatever it was on. But there's power in the words and in the oath.
Yeah.
It's like a supernatural thing happening right there with the outcome of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hadn't really thought about that either. I had looked at or noticed how it says, like, then the woman shall conceive, and I basically took that to mean like a gift for her for going through this. But then, like you just said, and I hadn't thought about that before, is the man actually has to bring an offering. So he's got to actually take out of, it's going to hurt him too, right? Because he's got to take out of his supplies in order to bring this forward. And the reason he shall do it, the reason he has to do it is for what we just talked about. Because if he doesn't do it and he just lets his jealousy go unspoken to, unlooked at, it's going to destroy their relationship, okay? So that's why it's like look, don't let this jealousy get out of control. Do not let it get far. If you are suspect, come right away. You know, that kind of thing. Anything about the priests or the clans of Levi?
I didn't think about the whole thing about, the priests, the Levi, like, this whole hardship, and I see it now. I think that's pretty cool. And just what I always think about when, they probably were like, it doesn't seem like they ever have this free time. They probably look at the brothers from the other tribes and they're like, it's so easy, they gotta do their work and then they kind of relax. It doesn't seem like they have time for like when we read about Moshe's blessings that you brought up at the end there before he dies, he mentions how they didn't know their own children and stuff because they were so dutiful and doing what they were given to do.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting to
It's kind of interesting too, isn't it? In that one, I don't remember. Isn't it in Deuteronomy, Moshe's blessing, where Shimeon doesn't get anything? Right? Is that the one right there? Because he's in that original curse with Levi because they came together to kill the sons of Shechem, the men of Shechem. And then at one point, I think it's Moses' blessing, like he just like straight leaves him out. Like he just like doesn't get anything, which I would love to drill down at some point. Which is also surprising because when you think that Shimeon is the one who got taken in place for Benjamin when they had to go back and get Yaakov, you know what I mean? You guys know what I'm talking about, in the land? And we had talked about how that was probably because after Reuben, who wasn't there and who didn't want to sell Joseph and or kill him or sell him or anything, the next firstborn, the next one in charge who should have stood up and said, no, we're not doing this, is Shimeon. And so I think, I don't know, I think that's interesting that he kind of redeems himself too, because by the end of it, he's like, no, take me, like let me be a ransom for my brother. But he doesn't get anything, so I would love to look into that. That's pretty interesting too.
The duties were. So like in Shmuel Bet, in the second Samuel, there is a story about Uzzah guys and how he touched the ark. Have you ever
Yes.
were you ever interested why
Yeah, fell
he touched
into the ark.
The ark? They both touched the ark and they got killed. And why the wrath of Adonai burned against them? Because the ark was not carried by the Levite, but it was on the oxen on the wagon. So that's what it is. So that's why all this happened. And if you don't know why the commandments, so you don't know why our Father was so angry about them. So it's very important.
All right. Repetition is wrong. Let's stand and join me. Hold on. Hold, please.
Shema Israel, Yahuwah, Eloheinu, Yahuwah, Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod, Malkuto, Leolam, Vayed. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity.
You can be seated. Over the wine.
Baruch atah Yahuwah, Eloheinu melech haolam, v'moshe le'inai ga'avet. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahuwah Elohim, King of the universe.
universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
And taking bread, giving thanks.
Reflecting over the bread.
Baruch atah Yehovah,
Eloheinu melech haolam,
hamotzi lechem haaretz. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh,
Elohim,
King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth.
And taking
Taking bread, giving thanks, he broke it and gave it, and saying, This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me.
Amen.
I have set watchmen on your walls, O Yerushalayim, all the day and all the night, continually, were not silent. You who remember Yehovah, give yourselves no rest, and give him no rest till he establishes, until he makes Yerushalayim a praise and all in the earth. Yehovah, we thank you for bringing us here today. Be with the 8,938,000 people of Israel, that you will watch over them, that you will bless them, that you will keep them and protect them from the enemy. All the Arab nations who wish to make war upon her, confound them and slay the enemy. And Lord, be with the Jews in the European countries as Nazi Germany is rising again and wishes to exterminate the Jews, and same with France and Great Britain. And you will watch over them, and we will bring them to Eretz Israel. And Lord, be with our foreign policy and our president, that they will continue to watch over Israel and bless Israel. And those who oppose blessing Israel, may you curse them. May you cause them to break out sores and sores, and you may send curses and death over them. Lord, we ask you to bless our congregation. Bless Joseph, who's on the road preaching and teaching, and be with Michael as he goes and sees his niece's graduation. You will watch over them, give them driving mercies, and bring them back safely. Lord, be with us through the week, that you will give us health mercies and mental and driving mercies. What's your name? We ask these things. Amen.
Amen. Could you join us all in Psalm 67?
Elohim does favor us and bless us, cause us face to shine upon us, Selah. For your way to be known on earth, your deliverance among all nations. Let the peoples praise you, Elohim. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you judge the peoples uprightly and lead the nations on earth, Selah. Let the peoples praise you, Elohim. Let all the peoples praise you. The earth shall give her increase. Elohim, our Elohim, blesses us. Elohim blesses us, and all the ends of the earth fear him. Amen.
Right on.
Praise reports, prayer requests.
Bernie McGee, he passed today. He had a heart attack.
Are you serious?
What?
And
I'm leaving right now, so.
he has a wife, Paige, and 2 boys, John and Kyle, and he had some older
That just happened
sons
today,
as
like
well.
always been here?
Anything about the cause? Harm?
He had a heart attack.
Heart attack.
Right now.
For the 2 new people, I don't know you guys, but he was someone who used to attend our congregation, so.
Did that just happen today, or?
Yeah.
Well, we certainly want to keep Paige in the voice and prayers and. Any other prayer requests, praise reports?
Leslie wanted me to bring something up for her. She wanted to keep somebody that she knows named Ashley,
well today. She had a really bad headache. She left her.
She said she had to go a little bit of time without her medicine, but it didn't show up today, so hopefully that goes better. Any praises this week?
Mr. John, you have something to say?
Yeah, well, we've been praying for Linda Trolio. She came to my office, she and her husband. And she said, John, I've got about 2 or 3 weeks to live. We went over her IRA, retirement accounts, we transferred over. I've never had to counsel someone who's going to be dead within 2 weeks, 2, 3 weeks. It took a toll on, she's taken a toll on her husband. But it's just one of the gloomiest things I ever went through. She looked pretty healthy, she was of sound mind, but she said, John, I've got maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you stretch it a little. And gone. She just turned 68 on June 4th. And really was heart-wrenching. I hugged her. She was going to the car. It'd be the last time I ever see her alive. And it just took a toll on me. I know it's taken a toll on the family I've known for about close to 20 years. It's just horrible when someone dies of cancer. It just really is.
Is your mom doing well?
Yeah, and actually, I forgot, she said hello.
Okay.
Said, say hello.
We always miss her.
Please, please, say hello. Don't forget to say hello every day.
Glad to have you back, Abby. Praise for the worship team. I don't know if there was a decision made for next week because more people will be out. What's the music going to be?
We'll still have to talk about it. It'll either be
Okay.
acapella or
Okay.
We'll
But
see
we
what the
certainly love
consensus is.
voices, so
We'll talk about it after.
it's up to you guys. Does anyone else have anything? Okay. Heavenly Father, we know you heard our prayers. There's, I'm sure, so much more in our hearts that we haven't verbally expressed, but you know our hearts. And please help us search ourselves and live the way we're supposed to live and be righteous for you, because just as a shock as it was to hear this news about Bernie, none of us can take for granted the time we have, and it affects all those around us. And we really know the only truth in this world is esteeming you and your word and your son, and through that path that will give us life no matter what our body goes through in these circumstances. The eternal life that's promised through your obedience to your word is what we hold on to. So we want to esteem you and thank you for your covenant. Thank you for your mercies and grace when we fall short, and the opportunity we have to get back up and teshuvah and get on the right track and do what we're supposed to do. Please comfort those that have approaching devastations coming, and those that have been devastated by news of this week. There's so many people that we're not aware of. This world is a hurting world of darkness, and your light is the only true light that shines to them. So please give us the words necessary, and even if it's silence in the times of those people that we're around, just to be able to meet them where they're at and comfort them and let them know it's because of you that we can share love and ultimately point all love and everything in this world back to you and your esteem. In your son, Yehoshua's name, I pray. Okay, don't forget the food pantry. If there's anything you need, take it. If you have any special requests, let us know. We'll get it. And if you are blessed, please bring food and keep it stocked. It's in the back hallway. Sabbath studies are at 10:30, although next week is questionable. Rabbi's going to be gone again next week for the morning study. John might be sitting there alone studying. He has some notes if anyone wants to join him. Modern Hebrew class, are we still continuing with Modern Hebrew?
Yep.
Show must go on.
So anybody join in? It's in the early stages of it. It's great to learn. And I just typed up there the rest of this because we were so light on people today. But remember, today is a day about esteeming our Father. We're here to show our love and support for him, which is available through Yeshua. But we're not coming for anything other than we're in covenant with our Father, and this is a sign that we're in Father, and it's a holy convocation that we're commanded to gather, and it's a blessing to be around each other. I mean, look at, if we wouldn't come here, people didn't attend this place, it's a horrible example, but look at how the news of Bernie affects all of us. You know, that's shocking and heartbreaking. I mean, it really is. That affects so many lives, and it's terrible. But what a blessing it was to get to know him while he was here and while he was on this journey. And that's the point. We don't realize who we affect and what we do, but together we are stronger. It really is a blessing for all of us to be here. So when something happens, we can support those that need the help. So I know it was light attendance, and I appreciate everybody that was here. And you have to go on your way. We are the physical example of our Father's desire in this world. When we can show the world, it starts internally first. When you're behaving the way you need to behave for the Father, other people will see it. But it really is for the love of the Father that we're doing this. So, having said that, on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Baruch haba Hashem Yehovah, even so come quickly, Yeshua Mashiach. Amen.
The bread and the grape juice are up front to partake if you so choose. I guess that's all. I don't know, I think a lot of us have a lot to digest because of that. Did all the women leave to go speak with Paige or be with her? Or
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's just...
Aaron said it's just like it.
Where are they? Where are they leaving? Where did they reside?
They cross gates, they live on the street behind
Yeah,
me.
do we have the right information?
Wait, is it not?
That was the last place I heard of.
I did not know that.
Yeah, no, that's what so Travis just was understood and was able to tell people, so. Can I ask your guys' names? Got to put you on the spot. Hi, Michael. Hannah, hi. I'm Jesse. Jesse and Hannah. Nice to have you guys join us. Really appreciate it. There might be leftover. We do O&A before service now. We've just recently changed, but there's usually coffee, snacks, stuff in the other room. There is a modern Hebrew class. A lot of us get here in the morning, so we stay till sunset. So feel free to join and involve yourself as much as you need to, ask questions. You need to come a couple of 3 times to get it. I don't know if you guys have done Hebrew stuff before, but it's a little foreign maybe if you're not exposed to Hebrew and that. And we're all peculiar, so don't worry, nobody's apart.
What's your places? So we just stay here.
Are you?
Because the way someone was raised, it was basically like, as soon as you mention it, there's all. So it's been an amazing journey. But I had an experience where someone, the teaching by someone, they said you need to have a personal relationship with Yeshua, because I was saying Jesus Christ back then. And I said, well, that sounds good. I'd like that. And so because like I had been raised religious my whole life, and so I think they said you have to go through sins. I'm like, really? Because that's not taught. Like I've gone to people like I've got the sin and we're just problem. And they say, just focus on the love of God, just focus on the love of God, just focus on the love of God. And so they don't. So I was like, okay. So I was like, with the sins, on a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and I did that expecting God to come upon me.
Okay. For all that time
Probably wasn't the greatest mystery of my entire life. And it was horrifying. And weeks, I was
so what do you want?
Is this her?
She's got us very interesting.
Could you play before we got
Yeah, we should.
The Spirit gave it to me. By the time I find what chapter we're on, it's a huge relief. I was crying. He was sent someone here to always talk to me. When that happened, the Spirit was released. And so, and it's been a journey. God's been working with me. And this morning it was very unusual. I didn't know of course, I know. So he gave me a big warning this morning. So we'll work.
Is there anywhere that we
It's like I've had some sense, like some of the sense of the hardest week are like eating too much, gluttony, sleep too much, sloth. And so I'm just worrying a little bit more right now. So he gave me a big warning this morning. Well, I'm trying to figure it out. Because I do get a lot.
Okay. So you working with this?
Yeah. Nice to meet you. You're what? Jesse.
Jesse?
That's probably an unusual story. Sorry for just unloading it.
In some sense, it's I didn't notice.
I'm really hard of hearing. You said Jesse?
Yeah. But I don't care.
I don't have a son.
Oh, okay, that's easy to remember.
And my Jewish name is Hannah.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Jesse in the house.
Go off the chairs. Gun. Double it.
Okay.
See with a gun.
There was some
outlaw.
That's what Nick, you in trouble with.
Basically, I'm just seeking the Lord, and I'm trying to find. I want to please Him. It's like I've done some things right, but then
Once
He
we got
Travis is checking for you.
Travis is checking His face.
Well, you know, normally it's like a reaction.
I'm trying to get used to saying His name. I get confused because like I know Jesus is not His name, but and I know He's merciful and He is patient with people, but I'm just saying that I'm just trying to learn the way things are and work, and it's confusing because there's different people have different vowels and stuff. So right now it's just the ESV.
Yeah, okay. You know, we are reading here from scriptures. Let me ask if Michael has a...
They're looking for it right now.
They're looking, okay, good. Wonderful. So, this task, okay. Hebrew scriptures. They translate. And so far, very good.
Okay. I'll have to do research on different translations. It's like the more you dig into it, the more you realize like there's some funny differences.
You don't hear much about this,
Yeah, I haven't heard of this.
but this is scripture.
I'll look into it.
I'm going to show you on it.
Okay.
Jesse Gunn. I live in Kosciuszko right now. I don't know what I'm doing. I quit my job last week because I had work at 7.
We don't use this.
So, you're from Kosciuszko, but you'll understand.
So I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Oh, just friends.
Okay. Hi, I'm Daphne. I'm happy to be here. Hannah, I got her. And Jesse. Nice to meet you. I used to spend a lot of time. Are you from Kosciuszko?
I grew up about 45 minutes away, so not too far.
My parents grew up there. I met there. Both my sets of grandparents lived there, but it's been probably 20 years now. I lived there, but most of my childhood was,
I got you. I grew up not far.
Not far.
Not far.
That was cool. I like it. Actually, I live 5
Blueberries
miles.
that were coming in. I picked some down low.
I've had
Up high.
lazy.
We can take over here.
Oh, okay, well, I'll give you the shortest version I can. But I listened to a video of this guy who he walks in the spirit, like he's got a lot of spiritual gifts, and he's basically, I was like, I want to give that. And he said that you need to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I thought I had, and I heard about his relationship. I was like,
Vacation.
I think I have a personal relationship.
As soon as I get
And he's talking about how you have to put your sins. And I'm like, you can do that? Because that's, I'm not taught it well, the pastor's for advice.
Yeah,
I was like,
but
Jesus said this, or you should say this, and I'm not doing that. And they're like, yeah, just focus on the love of God. Focus on the love of God. Focus on the love of God. Well, no, everything. Like, I'm talking about like, I'm addicted to some bad stuff and I can't quit. And they're like, focus on the love of God. God's already forgiven.
They really did say.
Again, multiple times I've multiple pastors, and I say everyone sins every day.
What congregation? What?
It doesn't matter. I went to multiple pastors, and they said everyone sins every day, and God's already forgiven. And you're being too hard on yourself. You shouldn't be hard on yourself when God is.
You're being too hard on yourself.
And the thing is, this wasn't like, Joel Osteen mega churches, just
Snail?
your little Baptist street church. But anyway, that's the point. That God has told me something, aren't angry at him. So like, I'm not. That's not what I'm. What is?
They don't. They're misinformed.
And also, it says that those who are misled, like they still probably came in. So it's not like I'm responsible. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Maybe
it's
you
not
look
happening.
right. Like.
So enough about being bashing on the people. Like I don't. But it always
It's a
was.
part of it. It's a part of it.
Yes, but anyway, so I heard this. And there were other. I went to God and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this. And I went to God and I said, God, I want a personal relationship with you. And I expected God to like super happy and all this stuff. And I quit a couple of medicines that I was aware of.
Yeah, I
I've
know.
been struggling with this for 20 years.
No, I've done this.
There's this horrendous sense of
They just sent you the string.
They just sent the string.
and fire, and I got really worried. I started trying to find other sins I could quit, and I started thinking paranoid, and it just got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I saw where you could
Then I
actually
started
buy
fasting, because I never
bread
fasted in my life
just
before.
by itself.
And I did a week fast in between 2 drinks, and
Yeah,
it was hellfire.
I found out from Matt, a friend of mine.
Oh, the dreamer, this was like no dream.
That being,
I never experienced.
like
It was,
a lot of the other
it was
ones,
closer to a
they do
vision.
it- they do an
There was
additional
hellfire, and
to their
there was a sense of
strings. A
holiness
lot of
that
other
I
companies,
experienced my
if you
entire
get
life.
wet, they'll
And
actually
the
stain your
voice
clothes.
was in my head. It was like in capital letters, like fire, and it said, "Your knowledge will not save you." And there was another one that said, because I was looking at like, well, there's these regulations back there I wasn't following, and like, and he gave me another one. He said, no one died for eating a plant, but for rebellion. In other words, I'm not judging you for what you didn't know about. I'm judging you for what you knew about. And so
How far off it is from
this was the start of the
here.
journey, and like, I was in repentance for weeks, and
It's a bit different.
it's just awful. Like
This is more of a clear sky blue.
and he,
Mhm.
I'm not cut off.
Which blue it is.
I said, Father, you can't show me mercy.
Yeah.
I was like,
And that night,
if they know how
dream
originally it was like I want that.
like it's not like
You
again
know?
like it was not like a
And then to
dream.
me,
it was
like I got to
vision.
share with my dad.
And I saw the whole world, and I saw
He
this
disagrees, but he's not.
He said, prepare yourself.
But I got to share how they made the string, and Dad's like, oh,
Like that.
you mean to tell me they take the
And
hand
he never
first
came to me
and
to dream again.
put on this string?
And
When it
that
hits the
moment,
sunlight,
my
it
prayers,
turns
whenever I tried to
yeah,
issue
yeah.
a prayer,
I
like,
said, God's cool,
like,
man.
there was.
Yeah, he is. Like, yeah. You know, because we go through the whole Yeshua
I know.
Jesus Sunday, Saturday, and all
No,
that.
go, you're continuing.
Yeah.
This is a good
You
crowd
know, it's
for
just
long.
our creators.
I got many long stories. You know what?
I went from this burning sense of condemnation
And it's
and fire to like the whole fact I describe it, it's like there's a door between you and the Lord. And I didn't realize this until I've been going through this. You can't open that door without his permission.
Well, they can get them from
So
whatever.
now when I try to open that door
They
for
make
prayer,
it hot.
Just don't be.
Yeah.
it's
But,
like
you know,
an airlock to space. And it's this cold blackness that just suck all the life energy out of me. Where like I can pray for
Can you
a few
work
seconds
that
before I shut the door.
Yeah, I mean,
Can you bring it away?
Well, I mean, maybe, but it says,
God, they will together.
but it does say that I
I
can't
think
be
this,
cotton.
I'm not sure, but like, it's, I was
And
like,
woolen.
anyway, whatever it was,
I can
like,
wear cotton.
Well,
You just can't wear.
Well, it says-
You out here, brother?
Yeah.
All right, man, be careful.
Yeah, you too.
Did a good job playing today.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I assumed that. No idea what I'm doing.
You doing a lot better than I am. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's what it is.
To listen to
Because,
something and play a little bit.
it wasn't just like, you know, answering, it was like, I will not allow you to continue praying. So I actually had to quit praying.
Fantastic job.
And
If I get up there and start banging
You know,
on,
I
you're gonna know.
don't know a whole lot about
second of every day
fabrics.
from the time I woke up to the time I went to
What is
sleep.
the definition of
So
linen?
with, like,
What does
inspired
it come from?
condemnation.
Linen is coming from silkworm.
And, he finally.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Y'all try to say that.
I really do.
Silk. I thought it comes
No,
from
no,
silk.
no, 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 I'm wrong. Linen is
Flax,
yeah.
which is a plant.
Because in the words that I
Fine linen, I always thought was, Egyptian cotton. You know, make a fine linen shirt.
Yeah.
I thought that cotton was linen. I know there's references to flax as being a clothing fabric, which is a grass.
Ezekiel, the dry bones, which was up there. Which I was like, I looked through the scriptures and I couldn't find any hope from it. Like, as far as like, what you think was.
I'm not mixing with what it says.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard that law and I started having to try to change my thoughts, I got looking at, fabric. Just about everything is mixed with some, polyesters and
He told his lady, he's like, pray that scripture over the spirit.
elastic stuff, spandex. I don't know if that even figures in as what you can't, but it definitely says don't mix wool and linen. And I was thinking that linen was cotton. You didn't mix cotton and wool. But I know wool,
I'm not very good at seeing his face.
it thinks to me